everybody, we are back, and here we have Super Viper to show off the very first, I think it's the very first shoot 'em up for the marathon. It's Garudius 95.
Yeah, and before you ask, no, there is not a typo in the title. That is actually how the game's title is spelled. So, are we good to go?
Give me just a second.
Alright, good. I have to wait for this to go through anyway, so you give it a second.
Alright, give me a countdown whenever you're ready.
Alright. So quickly, let me just show you my settings. As you can see, it's all default. And let's get started in 3, 2, 1, go. So Garudius 95 is a Gradius fan game that was released for the NEC PC 9801, and I don't exactly know when it was released, but based on the subtitle, I'm going to assume it was released in 1995 by the CO2 project. I have no idea who they are, but yeah. So this game kind of takes heavy inspiration from the arcade version of Gradius 3. If you've ever played that game, you probably know that it's very infamous for being both incredibly difficult and also pretty rushed. This game is not exactly a port of Gradius 3 on the PC 98, but even though it, as I said, it takes a lot of inspiration from that game, and basically all the music in this game is from Gradius 3 Arcade. And I just want to point out that I don't believe any, like, MIDI programs existed back in the 90s. Feel free to correct me if I'm wrong. So whoever had to make the music for this game had to retranscribe it by ear, and it's, like, extremely well done. So, yeah, you'll definitely be able to pick up on that throughout the run. So, just to kind of give a quick rundown of what Gradius is, for those of you who have never seen a Gradius game before. So you control the ship, the Vic Viper, and you're basically, it's an auto-scrolling game. It's an auto-scrolling shoot-'em-up, just straight up. And you basically just blow stuff up and try not to die. That's basically the gist of these games. But, So, you'll notice that the main sort of gimmick that Gradius offers to shoot 'em ups is that sort of customizability in terms of when and how and when you power up. So everything is dictated by that power up bar at the very bottom of the screen. So when you grab power up capsules from specific enemies, those orange capsules that you see, they advance the power meter forward by 1 slot. So you can speed up, you can get missiles, you can get options, which are those little orange things that are following me and mimicking my movement. You can get lasers, you can even get a shield. I just also want to point out real quickly that although this is a fan game, this was extremely well made to the point where it actually feels... So the original Gradius series was made by Konami, and it actually feels like this is a game that was made by them. So we're coming up on the first boss of this game. Most of the bosses in this game are original, which is also really, really cool. So this is Hydro Core. Most Gradius bosses in general are just these giant core ships, and in this game, they usually aren't too hard. Okay, yeah, the general formula for Gradius stages is it's sort of... A typical Gradius stage is divided into 3 parts. You have this, which is the pre-stage. So it's just a bunch of, like, empty space, and you get a chance to power up from a bunch of different enemies. And then you have the main stage, which usually has some kind of theme or gimmick to it. So in the last stage, for example, it was a crystal stage, or it was a water stage, and then this is going to be a crystal stage. Again, this is kind of a new idea to the game. And then at the end of the stage, you usually have to fight a boss. And then you move on to the next stage and you complete. And this game has 10 stages, the same amount as Gradius 3 Arcade, but it only loops once, unlike most regular Gradius games. Okay, so let's go over kind of the different weapons here. So, as I mentioned before, you can speed up. In Garudius 95, which weapon type you select, because there are many different weapon configurations you can pick, actually determines how speed-ups affect your ship. And with the weapon set I'm using, only 1 speed-up is really needed. I don't know if you can what the upper limit is in this game. Most Gradius games let you go up to 5. But also this weapon type has a speed down option for that exclamation mark on the power meter, which is going to be really useful in situations when I want to go to higher speeds, but I don't want to commit to it, which I will be doing a couple times in this game. Then this weapon type has the missile type, which is the spread bomb, which is kind of the main benefit of this type, as the spread bomb is extremely overpowered, especially... It's overpowered in just about every Gradius game it's in, including Gradius 3 Arcade. It's basically just the parabolic arc that's firing forward and letting out that explosion upon impact. And then the laser type here is the ripple laser, which is that sort of expanding beam that goes outwards. The ripple laser is decent in this game. And then the shield is the force field, which in most Gradius games withstands only 3 hits, but protects you from all sides. In this game, it's like Gradius 3 Arcade, and it withstands 6 hits. So this is a pretty interesting boss. This is Serial Core. It's actually in 3 different phases. So this first phase is basically just a rip-off of Crystal Core from Gradius 2 Arcade, including the fact that if you are perfectly aligned with it, then it doesn't move. It's kind of hard to hit with the ripple laser because of the fact that the ripple laser kind of grows, and it just timed out. Gradius bosses time out if they go for long enough without you killing them. This second phase is really easy. And then this last phase is a little bit trickier because of the fact that you kind of have to continuously weave in and out of both the crystals and the lasers here. But splotch damage and options make it pretty easy. I'm glad to see that this is your favorite Gradius fan game. It's definitely one of the better Gradius fan games out there. Really one of the only good ones that I've seen, although I haven't seen that many. You might notice that this does have a blocky scrolling akin to like the MSX. Most Gradius games on, more refined hardware have a lot smoother scrolling, but honestly the blocky scrolling is barely even a hindrance. So here we have the plant stage. In Gradius 3 Arcade, the plant stage is stage 8. The stages don't maintain like the exact same order, I guess you could call it, as the original Gradius 3, but like I said, it really borrows inspiration from that game. And then here I can just scroll upwards infinitely, so I'm just going to kind of move up and down and just kind of blow up everything I see. And we should be seeing... Okay, so that's the Option Hunter. That's a Gradius staple. It's... if you've ever played one of the later installments, you probably do not like that thing. The Option Hunter appears after a set amount of time, and if it touches one of your options, it will take that option and any options following it, which means it can take up to all 4 of your options. So you really want to avoid it whenever possible. In this game, it will show up regardless of how many options you have, unlike other games where it only shows up if you have all 4. But usually it's not too hard to dodge, and... but there are some situations where it might get a little bit dicey. Yeah, this is a PC 9801, so it's not even PC Engine quality. Alright, we got a couple new enemies here. We got that those little bulbs there that they can fire out spread shots. One of the more important things with this fan game is you really want to destroy most things as soon as they come on screen, because if they're left alive, it can actually get pretty flooded. Gradius games, most of the time, use a sort of... They either use a sort of dynamic rank system where rank kind of increases drastically as the longer you survive, but a lot of earlier Gradius games tend to use a more static-based rank formula, where rank is solely based on your progression and power-up state. Alright, so now we have this boss, the Drastic Turquoise. This boss is honestly a little bit tricky because it's hard to hit it in this first phase. And, but aside from that, it's not really a big deal. You just kind of have to learn how to weave in and out of the bullets. And then this second phase is really tricky if you don't know the trick to it. So the core is going to start on the far right side, and whenever you're on the same side as the core, the other 3 arms can't hit you. So I'm going to move down here, and I'm just going to go ham on it, and there you go, it's dead. So that song is actually not from Gradius 3 Arcade, this boss theme. It's actually Fighter Blood, which is the boss theme from Nemesis 3, or Go for No Yabu Episode 2 on the MSX. And I don't know why, so that default high score there, that is the default high score for this game. I have no idea why. It seems like a pretty arbitrary number, but we'll just roll with it. Okay, so next up we're going to be into the Volcano stage. The Volcano stages are another common staple of the Gradius series. I got a lot of rocky terrain, and eventually we're going to see some volcanoes that erupt. Yeah, the Gradius series as a whole is definitely kind of tricky to keep track of. A lot of different games, and also a lot of different versions of each game that can have slight differences. So here I'm using the double, which is, with this weapon configuration, is the vertical. So you'll notice that I have 2 shots now. One is the regular shot that goes forward, but then the other is going up at a 90-degree angle. This game also does have a weapon edit mode, just like Gradius 3 Arcade, where you can sort of mix and match the order of your power-up meter. That was a lot closer than I would have liked. But Type B, like I said, just happens to work out really nicely. Okay, so I let things get a little too dicey there, but we should be fine, as I'm going to try to intentionally refresh my force field here. I would like to not be in a situation where it's risky to do so, though. Okay. That was really scary. So, I should probably point out what happens if you die, in case by some miracle I make it through this game without dying. So when you die in this game, it's like regular Gradius games where you die. You go back to a checkpoint, and you lose all of your power-ups. And so you kind of have to claw your way back to full power, which generally in this game is not as much of a problem, but in a lot of other Gradius games, this creates what's known as Gradius Syndrome, where if you... Like, you can end up at a checkpoint where there's a lot of enemies and very few power-up opportunities, and it can very easily spiral into a game over if you, if you're at a really, really bad place and you just keep dying over and over again. This game does have continues in case that does happen, but I'm hoping to make it through all on 1 credit. Oh yeah, boss recoveries are also really, really bad. So those enemies that you see materializing out of thin air, they're known as Zubs. You'll see them a few times throughout this game. They're a common Gradius enemy. And then here we have a downward section. There's going to be some magma shooting up from here, so I have to stay back. And now we have a vertical climb downwards, and you'll see that vertical scrolling is actually smooth. It's horizontal scrolling that this system seems to have a problem with. Those core ships are really annoying because I believe their lasers actually do pierce through your shield, so you really don't want to get caught in front of them. So I'm just going to try to take care of them as soon as they appear, which the vertical does help with that, because I can just shoot straight upwards. And here's a section that's a little bit tricky if you don't know what to do. There's going to be a bunch of volcano bursts that shoot out here from the lava, and I have to sort of hide in the safe spaces there. And then I'm going to stay back here to farm from the rocks a little bit. So Gradius games, since these are basically arcade games, they use a sort of score-based extend system where you get a score, where you get extra lives after like a set interval of points. So you will be seeing me occasionally go out of my way to farm from like enemy hatches to try to get my score as high as possible so I can get like a couple extra lives in case I do get caught in a dicey situation, just to increase my chances of survival. So here's the underground section. Just like Gradius 3 Arcade, the volcano stage has an underground section, although in this game it is significantly less interesting. It's basically just a giant maze where rocks occasionally fall out of the sky, and the rocks are barely a threat at all. So yeah, there really isn't a whole lot to say here. I do want to mention this quick fun fact. So this song, which is just called Underground, in the original Gradius 3, it's about 2.5 minutes long, but the reason why it's that long is because the song goes through, it loops 3 times in one loop, but it goes through 2 key changes. So it starts in, I believe it starts in A minor, then it goes to B flat minor, then B minor. But for some reason in this game, it's a little bit different. It starts once in A minor, then loops twice in B flat minor, then twice in B minor, and then finally it loops. So it takes a lot longer to go through a single loop in this game. So yeah, as you can see here, one of the main sort of things to keep in mind with the Gradius games is just kind of keeping enemy fire contained. Your hitbox in this game is actually relatively generous compared to a lot of, like, official Gradius games. But you still need to be really, really careful. You don't want it to get flooded too much. And at this stage in the game, it's very easy for enemies to just completely fill the screen with bullets. Especially the enemies from these hatches. As you can see, they're firing quite a bit. Okay. So these hatches are a little bit tricky to take care of because this weapons type, they're kind of covered by the walls here, and this weapon type isn't the best for dealing with them. Alright. I would have liked to have gotten the Ripple Laser for this boss. Actually, I might still be able to. I don't know, though. I think there are two... Yeah, okay, here we go. So I'm going to get the switch back to the Ripple Laser here to make this boss a little bit trickier. How do you speedrun it? For the most part with these games, you don't. It really comes down to just not losing time and optimizing boss kills. That's kind of the main reason why you don't see a whole lot of speedruns of Gradius games, is because they are just auto-scrollers. These games are definitely more approachable from like a 1 credit clear or high score run standpoint. All right, I have to pay really close attention here because I don't want to get caught by these shockwaves here. This boss is ridiculously easy. You basically just hang back for most of it, and then this phase is where it dies. Yeah, this isn't really much of a speedrun as much as it is just a showcase. Okay. So now we're coming up to the first part where I would really consider the difficulty makes a bit of a spike. So, first of all, I'm actually going to go up to 2 speed-ups here mainly because the boss of this stage mandates it. You really want to be able to react a lot quicker. So this is the fire stage, and similarly to Gradius 3 Arcade, it starts out with a massive fireball spam. It's not nearly as bad as it is in that game, but you still have to be really, really careful because it gets flooded. Also, the explosions from spread bombs can obscure sprites, so that can be kind of an issue here. And then we have the section after this, which is just an absolute night. Like, if you go into this section with the prominences and you don't know what to expect, you are going to die. This section requires you to memorize exactly what these things are going to do. Yeah, you just have to memorize the patterns here. That's really the only advice I can give. The last part is definitely the trickiest. Okay. Alright. Yeah, that last part is the scary part because you have to be at the right spot in the right time, and you have barely any time to set it up. And if you're not there, you are going to get slaughtered. Alright, and this last section is thankfully a little bit easier, because it's just a bunch of dragons. These are actually intruders, which is the 3rd stage boss from Salamander. Okay. Now, the boss of this stage is also very, very hellish. So this is the Kugo Burn. I don't know what Kugo means. You really need to memorize the order of this guy's attacks. So I start off by going down there, and then I need to go over here. And then once it starts this next attack phase, I'm going to focus more on dodging than doing damage to it. Because these fireballs, they move really, really fast. Like, it might not look like they move fast, but they do. And they also kind of slightly home in on you. So they're very... Yeah, as you can see, they're very, very hard to weave around. So there's the first death. So now I have to actually recover. So now you get to see the wonderfulness that is the checkpoint system. This boss isn't too bad to recover against, though. This boss is really just mostly about dodging. That's really all there is to it. You just kind of have to dodge everything, and I just didn't do a good job of it there. I think I was focusing a little too much on trying to do damage. Yeah, I need to focus more on just... I'm getting bad fireball patterns. I think that's part of what it is. You have to not... The important thing when playing these games is to not panic when you end up in a situation like this. Because if you can make it out, then it's not worth just giving up. Okay, yeah, let's just not stay perfectly aligned with it, and then here I can. And then it's gonna shoot out a bunch of phoenixes at me, but I can easily dodge them by just staying up here. And then it's gonna go back to this attack again. I think this boss times out pretty quickly, so if I don't destroy it, then it's not a big deal. Okay. And in case you're wondering, this game just automatically gives you auto-fire. Like, I don't have to do anything special in order to get it. Okay, so there we go. There's that boss. That took a couple more tries than probably would have been nice, but... We made it through. Alright. The start of this pre-stage can be a little bit scary with low power, because you have this rush of enemies at the start, and they do fire a lot. So I'm gonna have to make sure to keep them contained. There we go. So if you've ever played Life Force for the NES, which I'm sure that's a game a lot of people have nostalgia for, this stage actually might look a little bit familiar to you, because it's basically just the ancient ruins temple stage from that game. And also it has high-speed dimension, which this is the song used for a high-speed stage in Gradius 3 Arcade. It doesn't really fit here, but I guess they just needed to find a place to use this song. And I'm switching back to the vertical here because you really want to be able to fire upwards for this stage. Especially for a section like this. This stage is a giant gauntlet of stuff from beginning to end. Like, you really have to know everything that's coming. And you really have to be prepared for it as well. And it's very easy to mess something up. Alright, so now we're actually going into the temple stage. Again, this is just going to kind of resemble the first part of stage 5 from Life Force on the NES. And I'm kind of farming from those red pinballs, as you can see there. Alright. This is a little bit weird, because I'm not normally used to doing this with 2 speed ups, so I'm moving a little bit faster than usual, but... I just have to get through here. Okay. You need good timing to get past there if you don't manage to destroy those generators. Okay, I'm not going to get those power capsules because I don't want to risk getting trapped in that dead end. Okay. Yeah, the major challenge of recovering is when you end up in a situation that you're not used to. Okay. So here's where the stage kind of branches off from Life Force and starts doing its own thing. So that section is completely new. And then here's an interesting section. So these moving blocks, they stop moving when you either shoot at them or when they get caught on those like tiny bricks. So I have a route here where I just don't shoot at them at all. And that makes it pretty consistent to get through here. These squeezes here might look tight, but they're, like I said, as you can see there, your hitbox in this game is very, very forgiving. Alright, and then this section's annoying. These laser cannons you really want to take out as soon as possible, because when the lasers fire, they actually keep moving until they lock onto your vertical position, and then they charge towards you. So you really want to take them out as soon as possible. There. Alright, and then we're gonna grab these, and then we have a couple of wrecking balls here. Again, it's probably gonna be a little bit sketchy here because I'm at a higher speed than usual. But actually, first one should be pretty easy to get past. Yeah, this is all just about good timing and maintaining the good position. You just kind of have to be in the right position at the right time. Alright. Made it through there. And now we have a really, really atrocious boss. This boss just sucks. You really want to kill it quickly if you can. So this first phase, it's actually going to be kind of nice for me to have 2 speed-ups here, because it'll make... this first phase has a really, really nasty eye blast that it can do, and it's pretty tricky to dodge with only 1 speed-up, so having 2 speed-ups might make this a little bit easier. So I'm just going to kind of go ham on this. So the weak point here is the beetle that's like right above the thing's eyes. Ah! Yeah, I didn't turn around in time. I tried to move back too. You have to keep moving that entire time, or else you will get killed. This is another boss that's not too hard to recover against. But I do have to be very proactive here. I just kind of have to keep going ham on it with spread bombs until it eventually goes down. Ideally, I wouldn't have to deal with that eye blast at all, but I was at slightly lower power than usual, so... Okay, there we go. That was pretty scary, because a lot of those, these balls that it shoots out are random, so they don't always have the same patterns. Alright, so now it's out of this phase. The second phase is a little bit easier. Yeah, so for this second phase, you can very easily cheese it by just staying above or below the beetle. Except you do have to kind of weave through these energy spheres here. That's really the only hard part of this. Yeah, that weaving through it like that. And then again, you can just kind of cheese this by just staying above or below when it does that laser attack. That's really the only way you can survive that. Gotta focus there to make sure I get the timing right. Okay, I should be able to kill it with this next pass. Alright. I might have to do one, I think I'm gonna have to do one more of those weaves. If I don't kill it here, I think the boss is just gonna time out. Yeah, it's just gonna time out here, I think. I don't know if I timed it out there or not, but who knows. So that's another boss. Those two bosses that I just died against, those are definitely two of the harder bosses in this game, so that's not a huge deal. And this next stage isn't too hard either. I might have to deal with the option hunter here in a bit. So this is the Moai stage. So the Moai heads from Easter Island are kind of another weird staple in the series. So of course they make an appearance in this game. They're just kind of here and they fire ion rings at you. I don't exactly know why. Just accept it. Gradius logic. And their weak point is their mouth, and that's kind of all there is to it. And here's another option hunter. Alright, here we have some floating Moais, because, yes. You just kind of... In every single column, there's one gap that's bigger than the rest, so you just kind of have to look for those gaps. And then here we actually have a boss that isn't original. So this is going to be a Dogus from the Gradius 3 arcade, except now we have infinitely vertical scrolling, so the fight just kind of becomes this. Yeah, you can just kind of do that. And we have a couple new Moai types incoming here. We're done with the infinitely vertical scrolling here. So now we got these Moai stacks that are going to show up here in just a little bit. So the gray Moais are indestructible, and once you destroy the colored Moai, the whole stack comes down. So you kind of have to get out of the way. Alright, I'm actually going to grab an option here, because if I grab a force field, it'll just get wasted. Yeah. Alright, here I got to be a bit quick. Alright, there we go. That stack is probably the hardest to get by. Oh no! How am I gonna get through here? Oh hey, look, it's those Moais. That's a really cool design, in my opinion. You do kind of have to be careful when the stacks start falling because they can easily nab you. And you don't have a whole lot, like, especially at this speed level, you don't have a whole lot of time to get out of the way, and there isn't much room to squeeze between them. And now here we have another not original boss. So these are big Moais. These are from Gradius 2 arcade. And you don't actually have to destroy them here. You can progress without destroying them, but, I mean, there isn't really any reason for you not to. And this is the boss theme from Gradius 2, known as Take Care. You'll hear this song again in a little bit. Alright, that's all 5 of the big Moai heads. Oh, it does have King Hana. We'll see him in just a few seconds. King Hana is actually pretty cool for a Moai head boss. In a weird twist of fate, you can't destroy its rings, but its rings do block your shots. Oh, and there we go. It's that easy. Yeah, you can make quick work of it if you have full power. Alright, so now we have this stage. This is stage 8. This stage is basically a one-for-one copy of stage 3 from Nemesis 3 MSX. And I'm not exaggerating when I say that. It's almost the exact same thing. There's a lot of bullets here. Alright, let's get my 4th option, and now we're back to full power. About time. Alright, so this is a gravity nebula sort of based stage. So those purple wavy zones, those are areas where the gravity will actually pull me towards the surface. And you really want to stay out of them as much as possible because it makes controlling your ship weird. At least for the first 5 seconds, because now I have no choice. You basically just want to pick a side and commit to it. Switching sides is pretty dangerous, and I think the option hunter is going to show up at a really bad time here. Switching sides is really, really dangerous. Sorry, I'm going to bait this option hunter into going over there. Okay, that was really close. Dodging the option hunter there is really, really hard, but managed to make it through. The option hunter itself can't kill you, it's just that you really, really don't want to play this game without options. Okay, so we're past the hard part now. That's really the only hard part of this stage. The rest is relatively easy. Because here we have a bunch of cannons that fire off like mini explosions, but with proper option placement, you just cheese it. You don't even have to enter those gravity zones. Yeah, so there it is. There's the end of that. Now we have this sort of mini boss. These are a bunch of black holes. All of these black holes pull you towards them. And in Nemesis 3, if you enter any of them, it actually sends you back to the beginning of the stage. I think in this game, they just kill you. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to kind of stay back until I'm forced to weave through them. And again, you really just don't want to panic here. Only the direct center of those black holes kills you, so you actually have a lot more room to work with than you think. And then once you're here, you're safe. And then the boss of this stage is pretty easy. It's going to be a Gusty Core. It's basically just Delinger Core from Gradius 3 with 1 extra attack. But if you have full power, the fight just goes like this. Yeah, that's the fight. Now we're heading on to the second to last stage, and boss rush time! So this is yet another sort of staple of the Gradius series, is you have a boss rush. And the bosses are usually bosses from previous Gradius games, and this game is no exception to that rule. So first we have the classic Big Core, the main boss from the original Gradius. It's based off the Gradius 2 version here, but it's very weak. So, yeah, there's that fight. And now we have Tetran, the second stage boss of Salamander. The code numbers actually kind of pay tribute to the original game and what boss they're originally from. So notice how it says SO2. That corresponds to Salamander Stage 2. And yeah, this is Tetran, also based off the Gradius 2 version. Except its arms are way shorter and it's way slower and it's way more pathetic. And now again, pay attention to the code name here. You see G204, Gradius 2, Stage 4. This is Deathmark 2 from Gradius 2, Stage 4. Yeah, that spread shot of bullets that comes with the big laser, that's a new attack to this game. And then here we have Miss Viz, or Misfit. The name here is a typo. This is from Gradius 2 or Nemesis 2 on the MSX, and this version is specifically based on the Nemesis 90 Kai version for the Sharpix 68000. The lasers actually move with the ship, so you have to be really careful of that. Alright, now we have another Zub Rush, so this is actually, I think, another checkpoint where you get more power-ups, and I think another option I'm just going to show up here. Yep, there it is. Let's just move out of the way here. And it took one of my options. Cool. Alright, let's just get it back. Okay, I'm actually going to grab this, because I'm going to want to upgrade to a second speed-up later on. So now we have a couple of Gradius 3 bosses. The boss rush isn't quite over yet. So here's Lizard Core. In Gradius 3 Arcade, this boss sucks, but in this game, it's actually not too bad. It's really, really weak. There we go. And then we have another boss, this time from the SNES version of Gradius 3, which is going to be Beacon, which its name is also misspelled here. Beacon is a bit trickier this time, because all of its cores fire spread shots when you destroy them. But, as is the case with the original Beacon, it does not last very long. And now we have the worst boss in this game. This boss is just straight up ridiculous. And this is a boss exclusive to this game. So here we have Master Core. I'm just gonna shut up and let you guys watch this. That is as hard as it looks. And then this attack, you just kind of have to know where to be. And then the second phase is where it gets really, really stupid. So I'm pretty much just gonna let this boss time out, because trying to kill it is not a good idea, because of this. Yeah, if there aren't any pods to block that wave attack, it will kill you. Like, you basically have to keep those pods alive, which means you don't really have a whole lot of room to shoot. Alright, I'm gonna have to move up here. Alright, we made it through. This boss is gonna time out. Yeah, I pretty much never get to destroy that boss because it's just that hard. Okay, so glad to make it past that. That's a very scary part the boss to die to. And here we go. We're now moving on to stage 10. This is the final stage, and it's also the longest stage. So we're gonna get the force field back, and then I'm gonna get the vertical because, again, you really want the double for this stage. So this is another stage that takes a lot of inspiration from Gradius 3 Arcade's final stage. It's a mechanical base straight up, and it's just a giant gauntlet of obstacles. So it's kind of just one thing after another here. So I'm gonna go get a speed down here. There we go. So now I'm back to 1 speed up, which will make navigating through a lot of the tight corners here a little bit easier. So, some ideas are from Gradius 3 Arcade. For example, here the lights are going to flicker on and off, which doesn't really do anything. And then here we actually have a big core as a regular enemy, and destroying it gives you 50,000 points. So, let's do that. There we go. And then this second big core, you basically can't destroy without a backwards firing weapon, and I don't have that, so we're just going to let it go. And then the tiles are going to rip out of the ground and fly at us. And then the floor does whatever this is. You basically have to stay at the front of the screen here. This is probably the worst part to recover against, because this upcoming set of Zubs here, right here, it's nearly impossible to get past if you don't have a shield and full power. So you really, really, really don't want to die here. And then the floors are going to move out. And again, you just kind of want to stay at the front of the screen. And And then here it tries to block you off if you're not fast enough. And now we're gonna have Big Core Mark IIs coming. So we already just have some Big Core Mark IIs lodged in the ground here. They're pretty simple. Here's another one. Okay. Now we have a really, really stressful section. From here until the gun wall, this is a state part. This is another section where you kind of don't want to die here, and there's a lot of really tough obstacles. Okay. These reflecting lasers, you just have to know where to be. Move here, and then I gotta move here. Move here. And now we have these things. So in Gradius 3 Arcade, these are the spin lasers. And these things are awful because in their original game where they appeared, they are not affected by a lag, so they can get thrown off their cycles. In this game, you actually don't have to worry about that. These things are a lot more manageable here. You still kind of have to be careful, though. Because if I die here, I'll go all the way back to that laser cannon section. And also, here's another option hunter. I forgot the option hunter was going to appear here. Alright, that's fine. I don't really care about that. Alright, I gotta be quick here. Alright. That was a little closer than I would have liked. That final maneuver, if you don't make that final maneuver, you're just dead. So, fortunate. But now I'm at the gun wall checkpoint, so now I don't have to worry about dying. If you die to this boss, there's a super, super easy safe spot to recover from it. And even without it, this boss is super easy. Its attacks are really, really slow. Yeah, this is a gun wall. This is a common thing you'll find in Gradius final stages. Except it's usually a bit more hectic than this. Alright. It keeps attacking after I destroy it, so I have to make sure to keep dodging it. Now we're going to be heading into sort of the final stretch. I don't think it really matters if I have a force field here or not, so let's just grab it. So these are the cloud walkers. These are also traditions in Gradius games. They're indestructible usually, so you just kind of have to survive against them. And for some reason, the duckers here don't give you score. I'm not entirely sure why. Here's where it gets really hardcore. Now we have 2 of the crab walkers. Oh, almost didn't shoot in time there. I'm gonna be careful to not shoot so that I don't accidentally obscure their legs. That was really, really dumb. Probably should have gone for the force field instead of the fourth option, huh? Fortunately, recovering here isn't bad at all. That's actually kind of sad, because I would have liked to have gone for the, there's a 3-choice path coming up here after these crab walkers, and I would have liked to have gone with the time warp path, but I'm probably too underpowered to do that. I might still try it just to show it off. Fire so I can see what I'm doing, and then we'll actually fire this time and not get owned by that ducker. That's actually one of the least likely ways to die, is just straight up colliding with an enemy. Okay, so we're past that section now. Okay, so there are 3 paths I can go from here. One of them will lead me to stage 1 of Salamander, one will lead me to stage 6 of the original Gradius, and one is a time warp path. And the time warp path is actually kind of exclusive to this game. This is probably a bad idea because I'm underpowered, but I'm going to try the time warp path. which is going to be the middle path. And you have to pick one of these paths. You have to go down one of them. There's no way around them. So here we go. So this is the time warp path. So this song is in Gradius 3 Arcade, but it's not really... It's really just a hidden song that's, I guess, kind of a bonus feature. But this is going to be taking us through Stage 4 from the original Gradius, Stage 2 from Salamander, and Stage 1 from Gradius 2. And this stage is pretty hard because it can turn into bullet hell really, really quickly. Especially in these first 2 sections. Like, you really kind of just need to have a force field here at all times. And... screw it, we'll go for it. If I die here, I can just take one of the other paths. That's much easier. Okay, so now we have the Salamander section. Flashing lights warning incoming, because we're going to have enemies called Thunder Mayus that will make the screen flash white a few times. It's not as bad as it could be, but if you have photosensitive stuff, you might want to look away here. Alright. That's it for that. Oh, okay. That Fire Geist almost got me there. Okay, just one final wave of enemies. Alright, there we go. And now we have the Gradius 2 section, which is free by comparison, because all you have to deal with are these dragons, and they're not really out to get you. And this one, you kind of have to kill in time so you can go around here. This path actually isn't the best for score, and I don't even think it's the fastest path, but I just wanted to show it off because it's the coolest path. And now we end with a boss from Gradius 3, Big Cormark 3. It's... here. I might die here, but we'll see. Ah! Okay. Yeah, you just kind of have to memorize the pattern of these, reflecting lasers here. I think it's the exact same as... Okay, that wasn't how I planned for that fight to go, but that works. Yeah, that fight... ideally, I would have destroyed the back core first, so that it wouldn't go into that final laser attack, but I was able to squeeze by. And now we have this is the real final stretch. So these walls, not only are they regenerating walls, but once you destroy them, the regenerating walls become indestructible. So you really, really have to plan out how you get through here. And then these things, they have pretty generous hitboxes, but they're still kind of tight to get around at times. This is a pretty tough section to get through if you don't know what you're doing. Alright, and then I can just tank my way through here. There we go. So now we're basically in the clear at this point. Because now we're going to have a bunch of these... So I'm playing on an earlier version of the game, because I didn't realize that earlier versions existed. So there's going to be a bit fewer of these Galu enemies than there normally would be. But, I mean, even then, they're still not hard, because they broadcast where they're going to show up well ahead of time. Also, they normally make sound effects, but they don't in this version. Yeah, that's all of them. But there'd be a lot more of them if I was playing on a later version. And we're coming up on the final boss here, and I'm just going to warn you, this final boss is really, really hard. It's a tough one. I might die here. Wow, that was hard. Yeah, that's another Gradius tradition. That's usually what a Gradius final boss is like. I'm just gonna put that out there. But wait, there's more, because it wouldn't be a proper ripoff of Gradius 3's final stage without a high-speed escape. Alright, time's coming up, by the way. I'll announce time when I, like, lose control of my... Oh, shoot. Good thing I had that extra speed up. I briefly forgot what I was doing there. Alright, we made it through. So that's it. And time. Okay, that was Garudius 95. That was a 1 credit clear. A few more deaths than I would have liked, but like I said, this game can get a little bit unforgiving at times, especially with some of those bosses in the mid game. But yeah, that's kind of it. So also I have no idea what this text is saying. It's all in Japanese. This is a very, very good Gradius fan game. I would highly recommend it to anybody who has a passing interest in the Gradius games and is wanting to kind of try something out. Again, this is for the PC 9801. I'm playing this on the Nico Project 2 emulator. And yeah, it plays like it's a regular Gradius game made by Konami. So, and if you're also... There's a lot of... Even if you don't want to play any Gradius fan games, just the Gradius series in general, if you love shoot-'em-ups, you're going to love the Gradius series. It's very... The games are hard to get into, and they do require, like, a lot of learning. There's a certain skill set you need to have. There's a bit of a learning curve to them. But once you kind of take the time to properly learn the games and sort of learn how to go through them, they're really fun to play, really satisfying to do 1 credit clears of, and it's always a fun time for whenever I go back to these games to try to, like, challenge scores or see if I can make it farther than I normally do. If you want to know anything about any of these games, I have videos of just about all Gradius games on my YouTube channel, and you can ask me any questions you want about any of these games, and I'd be more than happy to answer them, because again, I love this series. This series is really what kind of got me into taking video games seriously, and I'm really happy that I got to show off such a cool homage to the series on display here. And there's just so much I have to say here, but I don't have enough time here, so yeah. And also, most Gradius games do loop, and become harder on higher loops, but this game only has 1 loop. So we're going to enter our name here. And... Oh. We'll just do I was going to do SVT for SuperViperT302, but we'll just go with that. And there you have it. So that's it for me. Thanks, Fangame Marathon, for having me and letting me show off this amazing Gradius fan game, and I'll throw it back over to you guys.
And thank you for the great showcase and the fantastic commentary, Super Viper. That was a treat to watch. Up next, we have a Celeste hack, map. Sorry, I call it a hack. It's a map. Strawberry Jam collab, the big map from last year, and we have 5 people going through the Grandmaster lobby. You definitely don't want to miss this. Stay tuned.